you own it. Let every mile bring a smile, yeah.
Welcome back to the Road of Life podcast, and a very happy new year to everybody. We're just starting off 2024. So we thought we would spend today's episode talking about the lessons we learned in 2023.
Yeah.
Make it a bit of a two-part episode, really. We'll start this week with the lessons we learned in 2023, and then springboard that into next week's episode of goal setting and, you know, what we do for goal setting, how we goal set, what the process is, what's important to us, and all that kind of good stuff.
Little spoiler for next week.
A little spoiler for
And
next
my
week.
voice, I don't know, can you hear my voice? Does it sound different?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm dealing with this cold, so I got the sexy voice this time.
Yeah. All right, so 2023.
Yeah, big year.
Huge year.
Yeah, lots happened.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But also didn't meet expectations in a lot of ways. Like, exceeded expectations in a lot of ways and didn't meet expectations in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be one of my lessons. I guess we can just dive into the first one.
Yeah, sure.
And it's really just, like, a lot can happen in a lot can change in a short period of time. Like, you have all of the best intentions on January 1, 2023, and you set all these markers for yourself, all these things that you want to accomplish based on what you see from your limited viewpoint on that day. Mm-hmm. And you're projecting out one full year. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how even just a few months into the year, things change, and what you thought you were going to focus on or do completely switches and goes in a completely different direction. So the first lesson, I think it's something that I've think known in theory before, but it really hit me this year. Like, this year was more different for me. Like, things changed dramatically this year more than most years for me. And I think it's, as you go along this entrepreneurial journey, things like that happen. Where I was in the corporate world, your goals largely were the same all year, and it didn't have that same effect on me.
Yeah.
Whereas since we've undertaken this entrepreneurial journey, and this year in particular, it was very much like, on January 1, these are the 5 or 6 things I'm going to do. Like, nope, not even close.
A bit of a spoiler for next week's episode, I guess, but it was really funny and kind of fun to read the letters we wrote to ourselves on New Year's Eve 2022 about, what we thought the year was, how the year was going to unfold and the things we were going to do.
Yeah.
And reading that letter in some ways was great. And in other ways it was like,
yeah, we'll get into that in more detail next week.
Yeah, but to your point here, came nowhere close to doing that, and in fact completely changed gears, completely changed trajectories, because things can change really fast and you don't always see it coming.
So I think the first lesson is that it's a lot can change in a short period of time, and don't let it take you down. Mm-hmm. Like, just because you had on January 1st, in that limited viewpoint that you had, that you were going to do these things and you didn't do them, don't get so tied to that because on January 1 you thought that was going to be the thing. Mm-hmm. Go with the flow a little bit. The universe is working in your favor. So start to, just move with the waves and set, as you go, figure it out. You'll change your goals as you go.
So that takes me to one of mine. It wasn't the one I was going to start with, but it takes me to one of my lessons for this year from 2023, which was to ditch my attachment to the timelines. Like, when I set goals and I set a timeline with them, because, that's what a goal is, I think, I'm expecting to achieve it by a certain date. And so there were goals I set for 2023 that I didn't achieve yet. Mm-hmm. And so all of my life, I think to this point, I've been pretty attached to the timeline. Like, when I look back on my life, like, I didn't love turning 30 because I hadn't hit the milestones I thought I was supposed to hit.
Right.
By whose metrics, I don't know. But, what society kind of tells you all these things.
That comparative reality that you get into. Yeah.
And so I think I've always been somewhat attached to the milestones and the timelines. And so in 2023, it really hit me sort of towards the end of the year that, I'm not going to hit some goals I set for myself for 2023 yet. Like, release my attachment to the timeline, because I'm not in control of the timeline. I'm in control of my action, like my intelligent, incessant daily action, the things, the habits, the things that I'm doing to move me in the direction of achieving the goals. But I am not in complete control of the entire universe and every factor that impacts whether I hit my goal by a certain date or not.
Yeah.
And so I need to release a bit of that need to control the timeline, because I don't have control over that.
And understand that if it's important enough to you, at some point you'll do it. Like
Totally. And to your point from your first lesson, things change, and maybe it's not going to be that important
That's
to me
right.
anymore.
Yeah.
But if it is, I'll get there when I'm supposed to get there. And so there's an element of, which, you know, as a recovering control freak is tough, but an element of trust the process, surrender to the process. It's going to happen when it's meant to happen, and stop trying to control the timeline, because I don't have control of the timeline. So that was a big lesson I took out of 2023.
I think, and that's a great one. On the heels of that, something that hit me this past year is, and I think it's been something that I've, similar to the first one, been thinking about for a while, but it really came to the forefront this year, is that the thing that you think is hard today or impossible to do today will eventually become second nature tomorrow. Like those things that are stopping you from moving forward today, if you just start and then build some momentum, eventually that thing is like not even a speed bump. It's just a little, it's nothing. It's second nature to get past that. And I just think that I would spend so much time worrying or thinking about these things that in the grand scheme of things really aren't big fears or big worries. Like it doesn't turn out to be what you thought it was going to be, and now those things are, okay, it is what it is, and that's Tuesday, and now we're going to move on and do it.
I figured that out. Like I figured everything else out to this point in my life, and when you said that, it made me think of this podcast. We didn't have a freaking clue how to do a podcast.
Yeah, still kind of don't. We're just winging it.
Totally. But at least like the technology side, there was a lot of things we had to learn in order to be able to put this podcast out where other people could hear it. It's one thing to figure out how to record it just between the two of us, and what are we going to say and what are we going to talk about, and how does that part work?
Yeah.
The part that was, I don't know how to do it and it's intimidating is all get out, was like the technology. Like you need to have like a platform on which to upload these episodes and figure out how to get them onto the different Spotifys and Apples and Audibles. And, you know, there was a lot of tech. There's way more tech that goes into this than I thought. And it was super intimidating. I had no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
And then you just figure it out, and
do
it's
it.
not that hard.
Yeah.
It's way more intimidating before you take the step than after you just start trying to figure it out.
And I think an important one, and this is maybe like a sub lesson of this, is that the longer you take to start, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Like you start to build it up in your mind as this big scary thing, where if you'd just done it, it wouldn't have had the time to morph into a bigger snowball in your mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's like you figured out everything else in your life to this point. You're going to figure out whatever the thing is right now too. So just take the first step.
Exactly.
And so I guess it kind of relates. I'm not going to worry about trying to relate all mine to all yours. I'm just going to jump in with the next one.
Just jump in, McKay.
It's find the win, because it's always there. It's hard to find the win when you think you failed at something or it didn't go the way you thought it was gonna. But it's never a failure, because there's always a lesson. So if you can take a lesson out of the obstacle, then it's a win.
Yeah.
There's always, either you succeed, which is a win, or you figure out a lesson, the way not to do it, or a deeper, a bigger lesson from whatever it is. So either you succeed or you fail and you find the lesson. So either way, it's a win. So find the win. There's always one.
I love this one, and similar to that is like change the rules so that you always win.
Yeah.
Like don't, and I'm gonna get into a story in a second, but it piggybacks off this, is like like to your point, there's always a win. Find it. And if you can't, change the rules so that you do win.
Yeah.
And there's nobody better at that
I agree.
than Nate.
Totally.
Our nephew Nate. He'll put on the pads and get in the net in hockey, and he'll talk smack the whole time going down the stairs. You're not going to beat me. I'm going to rob you, and all this stuff. And then he'll put on the pads. I'll take the ball and I'll shoot it. And if I score, he wasn't ready. If I score, nope. That was against the rules. That went off the wall or whatever. Like that's no goal. You have to shoot it straight at me. You can't trick me.
Yeah.
He changes the rules so that he always wins.
So,
And at first, it was like, Nate, you can't do that. Like, you got to play by the. And then I was like, no.
Wait a second.
Why would I tell him that? Because, yeah, there's a fine line there. There's sportsmanship and all that, but I love that he always finds a way to succeed and always find a way to win. And so it's really important to not try to take that from him, but also still instill in him the benefits of
losing.
being a sportsmanship. And in sports, you are going to lose. You are going to win in that you learn something about yourself and your team and all that stuff, but you might lose the game. So it's a balance there with him, but it's a lesson that he taught me this year.
Both of us, for sure.
Yeah, that
Change
the rules so that you win.
Totally. Because there's, like I said, there's always a win. And so I think it's important, based on, our last episode, to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Celebrate the win, whether that's the lesson or it's the success, whatever it is, celebrate the win. And the, I guess, sub-bullet of this one for me is for the failures, for the obstacles, for the times you have to find the lesson. I'm taking away that I'm seeing those lessons now as the prerequisites to my success.
Yeah.
It's almost like I need to hit all these lessons. I have 7 lessons. If I knew that I had 7 lessons I needed to learn to live the life of my dreams, to achieve whatever the goal, the big giant goal is that I'm striving for, if I knew that I had 7 required lessons to become the person I need to be, to learn the skills I need to learn, if I knew that there was 7, I'd be in a real hurry to make those mistakes and learn those lessons so I could hit the 7, so I could achieve the goal.
Yeah.
And so if I start seeing those obstacles, those times that I fail, those times that I fall down, if I start seeing those as like, check,
That's the price. That's the price of admission.
That's the price of my goal.
Yeah.
So I hit another one. Good for me. I learned another lesson that I need to learn to get where I need to go.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be a lot more excited. And it's going to be a lot easier to celebrate when I fall down and figure out why I fell down than not figuring that out in the first place.
And it's not, and the more you condition this before, the easier it gets in the moment. It's not easy in the moment when you have that failure and you're like,
Oh, I really thought I was going to nail that.
Sucks. That did not go the way I want it. But if you condition it beforehand and you sit in that for a second, but then but here's the lesson that I took from that, and that's a win. And now I'm going to leverage that, and I'm going to do better next time, and it's going to get me to where I want to go.
And we did that a couple of weeks ago. Like, we got kicked a couple of weeks ago and sat in it for a minute, but then it was like, no, the lesson here is we need to stay where we are. We need to stabilize. We took the lesson that we needed to take from it, and we move forward. And so, to your point, you sit in it for a minute because you're, pissed off or whatever. You're frustrated. And then it's like, wait a second, I needed something from this. And you get there faster when you've conditioned it ahead of time. Yeah.
The next one is what really hit home for me this year with all the things that we did, because it's a big year. We reviewed it this past weekend, and we got up to a lot of things, and we were in a lot of places and with a lot of people. And thinking back on the year, life is just so much better when it's done with cool people, when you're having fun with an amazing community of people. I found that, some of my fondest memories of the year, and if I go back the year before, it's the same thing, is that a lot of the best moments were building relationships and community with other people. And, some of the events we've gone to and the relationships we've built. Like this year, we were, I think, almost every month we were somewhere with someone. you know.
But we went to 6 like formal events, but even outside of those.
Yeah, there was like a road trip from one event to another event back in like I think February.
Yeah.
And there was an event in March, and yeah,
Pizza night in February.
Yeah, pizza night. Like it was just so many times where it was not so much what we were doing as much as it was who we were with.
Yeah.
And so I think going forward, putting yourself in a place and focusing on making sure that you're doing the things that you want to be doing, or doing things with the people that you want to be doing them with.
Prioritizing.
Relationships and being around the people that you love and care about.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like it wasn't always easy this year to get to the events and get to the people and be around the community. It wasn't always easy.
No, a couple of them we almost didn't go to, and then we ended up going, and you know, there's no regrets. It was lovely. We probably would have regretted it more had we not gone.
Far more. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just, you know, life is better done with cool people. It's all about those relationships. At the end of the day, when you're signing off forever, it's not going to be the things that the to-do list, the check boxes that you did, the things that you accumulated that you think about. It's going to be the people that you that you did life with, the relationships you built. That's what you're going to think about. So that was just reinforced for me this year.
Yeah. So for me, the next sort of hard won lesson from 2023 is that no one's coming to save me. It's all up to me. It's not, it's not about what you can do for me or what a coach or a mentor or anybody else can do for me. It all comes down to me being able to do it for myself. No one's coming to save me. And what I like about that, it's a little bit scary, but mostly it's super powerful. It's super empowering. Like to our point a few minutes ago, like I've figured out everything that's come my way so far. And so one of the lessons I've learned this year that goes along with this is I'm way stronger than I think I am.
Yeah.
I have figured out everything I needed to. I've come through everything and we'll talk about this more in a future episode for sure, because I learned this real loud and clear a couple of months ago. And so we'll talk about that story more in a future episode, but I'm stronger than I think I am. And, it's up to me to come through and learn the skills I need to learn to get me where I want to go. It's not up to you. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to me, and I can do it because I'm stronger than I think I am. Because like I said, I've come through everything to this point. There's not one shred of evidence that says I can't figure out the next thing. I'm not strong enough to get through the next thing. And so it's all up to me. That was my lesson. Yeah,
it's a great one. And I have one that's piggybacks off that a little bit. It's similar, but I think I'll save it for when you tell your story, and I'll tell it from my perspective. You'll tell it from your perspective, and we were together.
Yeah, it was in Peru, so we'll tell.
And I'll tell you my
side of it, experience. With
it. It's one story with two different perspectives, and I think that'll be interesting for folks. But yeah, it is. It's every you come. It's interesting because as you build this life for yourself, you build all these relationships. But at the end of the day, like all these people everywhere you go, but at the end of the day, you came into this world by yourself, and you're going to leave it by yourself. Everything that is to do with your life, it revolves around you. It's all relies on you.
And it doesn't discount the relationships or the support you get.
No,
it's all up to you. But at the same time, it's no fun, and it's not possible to go through the world all by yourself and go through everything all by yourself.
Totally.
So you do
see the lesson before this one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it doesn't discount the cool things with cool people. It doesn't discount the support from the community, the support from your friends and family. It doesn't discount any of that. You're stronger than you think you are, and it's all up to you.
Yeah. And another one that kind of so that's a great one. Piggybacking on that is you can't always rely on things outside your control.
In fact, mostly you can't.
Right? things are not going to go your way all the time. Sucks, but it is the way it is. People will not always follow through and do what they say they're going to do. Mm-hmm. People are going to, well, they're humans. Mm-hmm. People are going to be humans. And this isn't, some people maybe are malicious, but most are not. And most people have the best of intentions. They set out to do the right thing, but things happen and they don't always do the thing that they say they're going to do. And you cannot allow that to derail the rest of your life or what you've got going on. Mm-hmm. So it's really like a B to your A of this lesson that you just shared, is that you're stronger than you know. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, when you think something's going to happen but someone doesn't follow through with what they say, you can also get through that.
Yep.
So it's you know, we've had issues where, you know, people say they're going to do a certain thing, they don't follow through, and it is what it is, and we just course correct, and we just, okay, well, that's not in our control, that's their decision, that's what they've done here. And now we're going to figure it out for ourselves. We're going to, what's within our control? Mm-hmm. What can we manage in this situation? Focus on that, and you're always going to be better off.
And that's been a big lesson, I think, over the last few years, but the last year or two specifically for me. And I was talking to people about it when we were in Peru. It's like, I'm a recovering control freak. I think you've got an element of that in you as well. And it's redirecting that control over the things that I actually have control over.
Yeah.
Because it's incredibly frustrating to try to control other people or situations that you don't have control over. And it just creates stress and anxiety and
It's almost like you're out in the middle of the ocean treading water and you think you're going to get somewhere, and like thinking that you're just not. Like, it's out of your control. So
So control what you can control and release the rest, and you'll be happier for it.
Yeah.
Like I like controlling. I like everything to go exactly the way I want it to go. Like, for sure. That's my default mechanism. But that's just not how life works.
No.
And so I've become happier and less stressed by focusing on what I can control. And, you know, Mel Robbins' Let Them theory, her most listened to podcast of 2023. Let them. They want to go do something that you think is incredibly inefficient or whatever. Let them. Because you don't have control over it. Let them.
Yeah.
And so that's been a game changer for me. Okay. So what's my next one? Oh, this is my next one.
We got a doozy coming.
I learned this a couple of times this year.
The universe saw fit to teach you this one a couple times.
Yeah, I didn't pick it up the first few times, so I had to learn this one a few times.
Yeah, I think most of us get those lessons.
Yeah. And so this one is feel it. I'm a big avoider of the negativity, like feeling the negative stuff. I don't like to feel the negative stuff. I like to avoid feeling the negative stuff, which means the negative stuff sticks around.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned this year is to let myself feel it, even when it hurts. And it sucks, like, for sure. Feeling negative stuff sucks. Like, there's just no two ways about it. But let myself feel it, even when it sucks. That's the fastest way through it. Mm-hmm. Trying to avoid it makes it last longer. It's like the story Greg shares with the bison and the cow when the storm is coming. When the bison senses the storm is coming, it heads right into it. It goes for the storm because it gets through it faster. When the cow senses the storm coming, it runs in the opposite direction. It runs away from the storm, which means when the storm does eventually catch it, it's in it longer because it's traveling with the storm. Mm-hmm. And so for me, trying to avoid the stuff I don't want to feel makes it last longer than if I just feel it, identify it. I mean, what am I feeling? Try and put a name on it, and let my body, let myself feel it, and then it goes away, like within a minute or two, usually. Mm-hmm. Or I spend days, weeks, months trying to avoid feeling it. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, I had to learn this one a few times because I didn't get it the first couple of times, but let myself feel it, and then it will just go.
I feel like this one's especially hard for people who aren't, quote unquote, don't see themselves as emotional people. We're human beings. We're all emotional, but some of us don't associate or identify as someone who is as being emotional. And so I think it's even harder for folks who fit into that category.
Or I'm fairly emotional. But
You're very emotional. We might watch an episode of damn near anything, and you'll tear up. And it's I
teared up in NYPD Blue last night. I think.
It's one of those things that it comes easier to some people than others. But hearing that you had to learn that several times, and being what I would call an emotional person.
My emotions run close to the surface.
Yeah, but for a lot of people, they don't. And this is going to be a really hard lesson for a lot of people to track with. And I think and I would say that I am one of those people who their emotions don't run as close to the surface as you.
For sure.
But it is something that I'm getting better with and understanding, like I feel something because of this situation. Old me would have been like, okay, let's put that over here somewhere else and never open that again. But then it comes back to haunt you at some point when there's some trigger in your present and this box just opens. Yeah, it pops open. There's a jack in the box and this thing hits you right in the face and you don't know how to react. And
usually when it's the most inconvenient.
Oh, for sure. So I think it's over the last year or two, really understanding it when that bad thing happens or that feeling that you don't like shows up, just sit with it for a second, understand it, don't judge it, and just feel it feel it going through your body, and analyze it a little bit. Like, why am I feeling this? Where am I feeling this? And then again, no judgment, and then just you'll find that it just disappears.
For me, the two big questions I think that help me the most with it, like identifying it so that it will leave, is like actually articulating what the feeling is. Is it frustration? Is it grief? Is it sadness? Is it what, put a name to it, and then where do I feel it in my body?
Yeah.
And then just that tunes me into the moment.
Yeah.
Like it makes me mindful in the moment, so I can identify, trying to identify where it is in my body makes me really aware of the feeling.
I feel when something like that happens, my shoulders tense up. Like my shoulders will go up by my ears almost, and I'll tense up, upper body, just rigid.
Or I'm more like my heart's either in my throat or in my stomach, and my stomach gets really tight, like it clenches on me. I may start to sweat. Those are my general sensations.
Another lesson I learned this year, or it was reinforced, whether or not I learned it in the past, I'm sure I have, and the universe saw fit to teach it to me again, is that, and it kind of is similar to one we already talked about, but I'm noticing as I go along that, not just for me, for everybody, because we go to all these different events and we hear all these different talks and we hear podcasts and we read books, and fear is the single greatest roadblock to all human, in like anything we want to accomplish as human beings.
Progression.
Yeah. Fear is the single greatest roadblock to almost anything we want to accomplish in the world. That's wild when you think about it. Like, it's not your
because we all feel it.
It's not your capabilities. It's not. It's not the resources. It's not any number of things that we usually would attribute it to. It's actually just fear. And if you got over that fear and you took the first step and you start to build momentum, it's amazing the things you could accomplish.
So what's interesting is, we probably should have said this at the beginning of the podcast, is we came up with our lessons separately. We didn't come up with them together. So I don't know what you're going to say next, and you don't really know what I'm going to say next. So I've got one all about fear too. So I think we'll jump in and talk about fear. Let's just talk about all the fear at the same time. And so for me, similarly, my lesson that's kind of based on fear is to never make decisions based on fear, because everything worth doing is scary, hard, or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so fear is always there. Fear is always present. And I have a whole sort of tirade on why I hate the the call to be fearless, because it's freaking impossible. Like, everyone feels fear. Literally every human on the planet.
We're hardwired for it.
Totally.
To survive as a species, we have to feel it.
Yeah.
But history, or society has taught us to when it's scary, that's a bad thing, and avoid.
No, what we need to do with fear is get used to taking action when it's present. Fear just means something's going to change, right? Like, fear is just like your hackles getting up because something is uncomfortable, something is different, something is weird, something is not the way I want it or need it to be, something is going on. So I've got fear, generally fear of the unknown, but there's fear present, although we'll do a whole episode on fear, I'm sure. But we have to get used to taking action with fear there. And, Jen Gottlieb talks a lot about putting fear in the passenger seat, because it's always going to be there. So put it in the passenger seat. Hi, fear. I see you. You're there. That's cool. I'm still going to drive the car.
Yeah.
When you let fear drive the car,
who knows where you end up?
That's when you're in trouble. Yeah. I'm going to drive the car. I'm making the decisions. I'm taking the action with you, fear, sitting there beside me.
Yeah. Let fear drive and you'll end up in a ditch.
Yeah, for sure. And so I found myself trying to make a decision earlier this year. And when I don't know, I had a moment of like, I went through all the reasons in my head why I was leaning towards the decision I was leaning towards. And then it was almost like I had this brief moment of clarity, like a gap between, like, that I could see clearly. And I realized that the rationale I had for leaning the way I was leaning was fear. I was afraid that I was going to have a certain outcome, like, fear of failing, fear of, worrying about what other people are going to think, like fear of not being able to, like, you don't have the skill. Like, it was all fear-based, and it was like I just had this single moment of clarity that, like, am I really going to make a decision because I'm afraid?
Yeah.
Like, that's not the right call. And so that moment of clarity let me kind of back up for a second and say, what if I didn't make it based on fear? What if I made this decision based on, hope for the best possible outcome? Like I like to say, what's the best that could happen? And I was making this decision. I was leaning towards the decision based on worst case scenario, based on what I was afraid might happen if I did it. And so it became super clear to me in that moment that you can't make decisions based on fear. Like, you just can't.
It's a good one.
Period. End of story.
Yeah.
And so I think that raises the question, well, how do you know what's intuition and how do you know what's fear talking? Because they're both there. Depending on how much practice you have at listening to your intuition, you may or may not hear it very well. But they're both there. Yeah,
I feel like early days, if you're not super in tune with your intuition and your gut, that's going to be a real, like, whisper. Whereas fear, I feel like, is like a reaction almost. Like, it's like a reflex. Like, it's like, oh, that. Well,
and I wish we had this on video, because you just literally, like, your body constricted. And so for me, that fear, when fear is talking, there feels like a contraction.
There's a reaction there. Yeah.
Like, I shrink. I constrict. I contract. Like, fear is a contraction, whereas for me, when the little voice makes me feel expanded, makes me feel bigger, makes me feel hopeful, makes me feel maybe still afraid. Like, I may still be afraid for the outcome, but I'm hopeful, I'm excited, there's potential. To me, that's intuition.
Yeah. That's cool. Any more?
I have one more.
Okay, what is it?
Oh, wait. Yeah, I have one more. It's gratitude changes everything.
Yeah.
Because it changes you.
It changes your frequency.
It changes what you see. It changes how you respond.
Yeah.
It changes everything.
And it kind of piggybacks off there's always a win. There's always something to be grateful for in life.
Totally.
There's always something. Even on your worst day, you're better off than 99% of the people on the planet. If you have shelter, food, clothing, things like that,
there's
like you're literally better off than 99% of the people in the world. Like, if you didn't have a gun pointed at you today, like, that's a win. Like, there's a lot of people in the world who can't say that. There's bombs going off around them. There's they can't drink the water. Like there's just so much to be grateful for that. And if you do, you align to that frequency of gratitude. Like it brings you into a better place in the world.
Yeah, I just love that it when you start practicing gratitude, it changes how you see the world. It changes what you see, which changes how you respond to the world and the things that happen, which literally changes your reality. And I had a moment of like such clarity on gratitude this year. And I could see a lot of things that I lived through in my life that I thought were miserable in the moment. Like I hated experiencing them in the moment. But when I looked back on them with gratitude, I was so grateful for having experienced them because it brought me something better. It brought me to where I was. It brought me whatever each one of them
Taught
was.
you a lesson potentially.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so without all those negative experiences I had, I wouldn't have gotten where I am. And so I had this like just real moment of clarity on being grateful for the shitty things that I've been through so far in my life, because without them I wouldn't be here. And so gratitude wasn't a new lesson for me, but it was made really clear this year that practicing gratitude changes your reality. It's a very simple
It's free.
habit. It's free. And it's a very simple habit.
And it pays dividends.
Like, we do, I think, several different gratitude practices, like, the gratitude journaling for sure in my journal, but also just the feeling, the gratitude practice, like when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night. And I think it literally changes your reality. And to your point, it's free, it's simple, it's just a habit. Everyone can do it.
Yeah. So I think that's the lessons for 2023, and I think it's...
We didn't count them. I think there was 11 maybe.
I don't... Yeah. Well,
Whatever.
They're all there.
Yeah.
And some of them blend together
Yeah.
and all that. But and I don't think the number is important. It's just the fact that, we stopped and did a review of 2023 and reflected on the year and found that these were the things that kind of jumped out at us. And I think it's a really valuable, insightful exercise to do that I would invite everybody to try, to just look back on their year and what did you learn, and, be intentional about it, because, if you don't learn the lesson, if you don't take it away, the universe might see fit or will see fit to teach it to you again.
Yep.
until you get it. So, just I would invite people to take that time and do that similar exercise of what did you learn this past year? And then next episode, we're going to talk about goal setting and
how we set ourselves up for success
what
in
that process
2024.
is. So
Yeah.
like we say, if you get any value or if you, liked what you heard, it would mean so much to us if you, shared it or liked it or left a comment just to let us know what resonated for you. And it always helps to
These mysterious algorithms.
Yeah, and it helps us
get in front of other people.
reach more people, which is always our goal, is to help as many people as we can. So anything you can do would be super appreciated.
We'll sign off and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye everybody.
Road of life, yes, you are.